Xiao Yan and the other alchemists were naturally escorted by the city lord of Zixi City to the examination grounds. As for the others, they were now gathered in a vast mountain range, where the deafening noise of chatter rose to the heavens, echoing across the entire mountain range. The scene was overwhelming. At the peak of the 10,000 Spirits Mountain, rows of ancient, elegant buildings stood tall. Apart from these structures, there was a massive square nearly 1,000 feet in size. The square was empty, except for dozens of stone platforms. On the platforms stood several elderly figures, who appeared to be on high alert. Meanwhile, the top of the surrounding mountains and the void above were packed with countless figures, all of whom had already gathered. "Elder Yao, don't overdo it," one elder remarked. "The number of alchemists registering for this competition has reached an unprecedented level." Several elderly figures seated in the square, their faces serious, turned to look at one another. Among them, the two oldest figures spoke. "How many people are there? You're making such a fuss." The elderly figure known as Elder Yao, with white hair, picked up an exquisite jade cup from the stone table and slightly curled his lips, seemingly unconcerned. The elder smiled faintly but said nothing. Instead, he raised 3 fingers in a mysterious gesture. 3,000? That's not too impressive. Elder Yao glanced at the 3 fingers and shook his head. "Elder Yao, it's not 3,000, it's 10,000. A younger elder nearby carefully reminded him. "Huh? 30,000? The tea Elder Yao had just sipped sprayed out in shock. Indeed. Elder Yao's eyelids twitched slightly. It seemed that in past alchemy conferences, the number of participants had never exceeded 10,000. To see such a large scale today was truly astonishing. All right. Since everyone has mostly arrived, let's begin. I'm sure these young ones and the many onlookers here are already growing impatient. Yes, let's begin." As the elders conversed, they glanced at the dark stone path below and the many eager figures. One of them smiled and spoke. "Is that one of the 2 9th-grade sacred class alchemists from the immortal realm?" The figures in the square gazed at Elder Yao, their eyes filled with deep reverence. Such powerful figures, even the heads of the forces behind them, had to show respect when they met them. The 9th-grade sacred class had already reached the pinnacle of alchemy in the Great Thousand Worlds, enough to make any reincarnation stage powerhouse bow in deference. Silence. I am Elder Yao Wuchen, the second-ranking elder of the Alchemy Holy Hall. This alchemy conference will be overseen by myself and several other elders. A calm voice rang out, and instantly, the entire noisy mountain range fell silent. Spiritual power from the spirit wandering realm? Xiao Yan, still climbing the stone path toward the mountaintop, couldn't help but feel a slight shock in his heart. The half-step spirit wandering realm was still quite different from the true spirit wandering realm. Xiao Yan, over here. Here. Before long, Xun'er and the others waved and quickly joined Xiao Yan. The alchemy conference is finally about to begin. The 4 gathered and briefly discussed the previous assessment, before Xiao Yan, with a slightly heated gaze, looked at Elder Yao's figure on the platform. 9th grade sacred class. If he could reach the 9th grade sacred class, perhaps the infinite flame territory in the Great Thousand Worlds would become one of the true pinnacle powers. The alchemy conference in the immortal realm is no easy task. After all, the number of participants this time is incredibly high. Princess Qianqian shook her head, pouring cold water on Xiao Yan's enthusiasm. Though she trusted his alchemy skills, she was still worried in such a place filled with geniuses. Elder Yao really is getting stronger with age. Praise filled the air, some of it insincere and meant to flatter. However, for a seasoned elder like him, it was meaningless. Those who possess sacred origin energy or have reached at least the 6th grade, please enter the arena with your sacred origin energy or alchemist badge. Without either of these, you will not be able to participate in this alchemy conference. Elder Yao Wuchen raised his head and looked around as though he were the ruler of this domain. Immediately, the hearts of many strong individuals trembled slightly. Such a casual gesture from him seemed to crush any other thoughts in their minds. From the human realm, infinite flame territory, Xiao Yan. From the demon realm, Briar Demon Child. From the ghost realm, ghost source child. From the immortal realm, floral god palace, Hua Qianqian. It seems these few are quite different. Elder Yao Wuchen surveyed the hundreds entering the arena, but his eyes lingered on a few dozen figures that caught his attention. Should we investigate them thoroughly? One of the other elders asked quietly. Not for now. We don't want others to think that the immortal realm's alchemy holy hall is too petty. Though it's a shame, one of our hall's greatest geniuses, who only appears once in a millennium, is currently trying to break through to the 9th grade. If he were here, this alchemy conference's champion would have been ours. Of course, there's also that alchemist force from the human realm that currently surpasses our alchemy holy hall. The voices spoke, and the scene immediately erupted in a frenzy. How could this guy obtain the sacred origin energy? In my opinion, it's probably just a coincidence. Why not me? One after another, mocking and dissatisfied voices surged. These people were all at the 6th or 7th tier, and they were quite unwilling to accept that Xiao Yan and the others had obtained the sacred origin energy. Possessing sacred origin energy could increase the success rate of 8th grade sacred pills, and it could even enhance the quality of the pills, which was shrouded in mysterious unpredictability. This is really troublesome. Looking at the hostile alchemists, Xiao Yan gave a bitter smile, as if ready to take action. Such a high-level alchemy conference was nearly a contest for 8th-tier sacred alchemists. While 7th-tier alchemists were powerful, they were clearly not enough to compare. Heh, how about I spar with you all for a few moves? A sharp, piercing voice rang out from the side. The briar demon child let out a cold laugh, and countless black thorny magic vines surged around his body, swaying freely. Some of them even carried an extremely powerful soul fluctuation as they howled toward the hundreds of 7th-tier alchemists present. Thud. Ah. You bastard, you're actually stealing our soul power. You're an evil being, a creature from the demon realm. The alchemists who were attacked by the briar demon child felt slight damage to their soul power, but it wasn't a serious injury. This is just a small lesson. If you continue to behave so disrespectfully, the next step will likely be... The briar demon child stuck out his small tongue, absorbing the soul power of the alchemists. Even his own soul power seemed to surge slightly. Late-stage essence transformation. Xiao Yan and the others who had obtained the sacred origin energy exchanged glances, realizing that the briar demon child's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. Elder Yao, the alchemy conference should begin now. After the brief interruption, everyone turned to the strongest individual in the center of the square. No one knew what kind of fierce competition the alchemy conference would bring this time. Boom, boom, boom. Just as the commotion in the square had calmed down, a crisp bell rang through the entire plaza. The ancient bell sound, carrying a terrifying fluctuation, easily suppressed the noise in the entire mountain range. Is it finally starting? Xiao Yan and the others, standing at the center of the square, could clearly feel the overwhelming energy of this sound. Now that everyone is ready, allow this old man to say a few words. Elder Yao Wuchen slowly stood up from the stone seat. His gentle voice seemed to be filled with a kind of magic that made people's minds wander. Even the entire mountain range seemed to radiate a peaceful aura. We are eager to hear more. When the host finally stood up, countless people's hearts began to burn with anticipation. This alchemy conference is divided into 3 stages, each held separately. The final winner will be granted the position of 3rd Elder in our Immortal Realm's Alchemy Holy Hall. Additionally, apart from the previously mentioned rewards, the champion will also have the opportunity, with the assistance of our Alchemy Holy Hall, to advance their alchemist rank to the 9th grade sacred level. Elder Yao Wuchen smiled faintly, but his seemingly ordinary words exploded like thunder in the minds of countless people. The entire world fell into a deathly silence for a moment, and then it seemed as if a molten world had erupted into chaos. What? Aside from the original rewards, there's actually a tempting incentive to step into the 9th grade sacred level? Elder Yao Wuchen's simple words instantly stirred a monstrous wave in the vast void filled with people. As everyone knew, it was incredibly difficult for alchemists to level up. It wasn't as easy as breaking through in cultivation. Alchemists needed to combine the right time, place, and people. Each element was crucial. This was why there were so few top-tier alchemists in the entire Great Thousand Worlds. An 8th-grade sacred alchemist was already one of the strongest and most influential figures in the Great Thousand Worlds. But if they could reach the 9th grade, they would undoubtedly be among the elites. Elder Yao, the Alchemy Holy Hall actually holds the method to reach the 9th grade sacred level? Listening to such an enticing offer, Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched, and a feeling of blood boiling surged throughout his body. Only after reaching the 8th grade sacred alchemist rank did Xiao Yan realize just how vast the gap between 8th grade and 9th grade was. Without a great opportunity, even someone as powerful as Xiao Yan would likely have no more than a 1 in 10 chance of breaking through to the 9th grade. So hearing Elder Yao Wuchen's words was naturally shocking. The prestige of the Alchemy Holy Hall, I believe everyone can see for themselves, so there is no need for concern. Alright, enough talking. The first round of the Alchemy Conference, Soul Confrontation, Yao Wuchen had just spoken when a nearly tangible crystal of energy suddenly appeared around him. In an instant, it transformed into a dazzling soul storm that swept across the entire square. The first stage of the Alchemy Conference, Soul Clash. Alchemists qualified to participate in the competition, please step forward. The other elders who were assisting with the competition stood up at the same time, silently standing beside the twisted void formed by the soul barrier, addressing the nearly 1,000 alchemists on the square below. The 1,000 alchemists stood quietly in the square, their eyes filled with a rare fiery passion. Clearly, with just a few words, Yao Wuchen had unleashed the madness that had been suppressed in their hearts for so long. Reaching the 9th grade sacred class, just this reward alone was enough to drive countless alchemists into a frenzy. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, numerous alchemists began to rise into the air, their bodies wrapped in overwhelming soul power. They rushed into the spirit realm, heading toward the first stage of the Soul Clash battlefield. A good show is about to begin. Countless figures watched as the alchemists flowed into the soul barrier's void, their eyes narrowing as they fixed their gaze on the crystalline formations that resembled mirrors, which reflected the many alchemists engaged in the soul clash of the first stage. Upon entering, they found themselves surrounded by dazzling, crystalline dimensional worlds. The world was filled with massive circular platforms, each surrounded by ancient prohibitions. As Xiao Yan and the others stepped onto the platforms, a strong, silent suction force emerged, pulling them in 2 by 2. Spirit realm? A vast void constructed of soul power? Upon entering one of the enormous circular arenas within the spirit realm, Xiao Yan looked around in awe at the eerily combined illusion and reality of the surroundings. Whoosh! Moments later, on the other side of the arena, a phantom-like figure materialized. Immortal Realm, Nameless Individual Su Yuan. Endless Flame Territory, Xiao Yan. 2 figures emerged quietly from the Soul Battle arena, and both spoke at the same time, clearly understanding the rules of the competition without needing much explanation, as their intelligence already guided them. Soul Clash. Only by defeating your opponent and advancing will you be able to break through the first stage. Su Yuan? Who is this nameless person from the Immortal Realm? This guy's power seems a bit unusual. As they watched the 2 opponents in the arena, some figures from the Alchemy Holy Hall responsible for maintaining order murmured quietly. However, they did not report it, but simply stood silently in the energy arena, waiting for the battle to unfold. The profession of alchemist requires powerful soul strength and mastery over fire control. The first stage will test your use of soul power. After several rounds of selection in various cities, there are currently 1,100 alchemists whose strength exceeds the 6th grade. The place you are currently in is known as the Spirit Realm, a special place for soul power battles. The Spirit Realm arena beneath your feet is connected to 100 channels, each containing nearly 50 battles. Only the victors will advance beyond the first stage. In other words, the first stage will leave behind 100 alchemists. Good luck. A grand voice echoed through the arena, explaining some of the relevant rules. Let's begin. Now that the rules were clear, Xiao Yan casually waved his hand, then smiled as he gazed at the young man standing not far from him. Soul Sound. Su Yuan sneered, raising his palm in an eerie motion. An invisible soul barrier, like an impenetrable wall, descended toward Xiao Yan. The immense sense of suffocation made Xiao Yan's eyes widen in surprise. Soul power. Seeing this, Xiao Yan did not dodge. Instead, he reached out with his hand, directly using his enormous soul power to forcefully collide with the attack. The moment they made contact, the energy ripples exploded and scattered in all directions. There seems to be something strange inside you. After this simple exchange, Xiao Yan furrowed his brow and spoke up. Because, after the latter's attack connected, the dark curse within him, which had remained quiet, suddenly began to stir. This guy in front of him seemed to be related to the shadow that had used the dark curse. What are you talking about? I have no idea. But I am looking forward to our battle. Su Yuan's chest suddenly glowed with dazzling light, and immediately, an overwhelming surge of power poured out from a corner of the spirit realm arena. Elsewhere, similar terrifying scenes unfolded in countless other circular battle arenas within the spirit realm. In the arena, the space was vast, stretching across several thousand meters. At this moment, Xiao Yan, looking somewhat disheveled, was darting around, trying to evade. Though Xiao Yan's soul power was strong, when it came to using and mastering offensive do skills, he was still at a disadvantage, suffering quite a few setbacks. Useless, Su Yuan sneered. The soul power here in the arena is protected by Yao Wuchen's strength. Unless your soul power reaches the level of spirit wandering, you won't be able to escape. Here, the true victory or defeat will be decided. Let me show you my strike. A cruel grin appeared on Su Yuan's face, a smile that sent a chill down one's spine. As his words fell, his entire body began to sway, and his hand became intangible. A pure white arm, carrying a terrifying fluctuation that Xiao Yan had never encountered, swept toward him. Soul Do skills and some defensive soul skill scrolls. Seems like I need to hurry up and prepare them, Xiao Yan murmured, then suddenly closed his eyes. He stopped running and slowly sat down in the air. In this pure soul realm, it seemed that any power other than soul power had been temporarily suppressed. Xiao Yan could freely manipulate the soul power within him, but other forces, like reincarnation power, were much harder to control. However, Xiao Yan was confident that, despite his limited mastery over soul power, with his current strength, dealing with someone at the essence transformation stage would be no problem. Soul Whirlpool. With no other choice, Xiao Yan gritted his teeth and gathered the soul power from his 5th-level spirit palace, launching it towards Su Yuan. He only used the 5th-level spirit palace to conserve his strength. Mid-stage essence transformation? The arm formed from soul power slowly lifted, and a hum filled the entire arena. Su Yuan's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. Die! Forcing away all distractions, Su Yuan's body flickered like a ghost, leaving afterimages in the air as he charged straight toward Xiao Yan's vital points. If the arm of soul power made contact, Xiao Yan would likely be either severely injured or killed. The soul power from Xiao Yan's 5th-level spirit palace slowly spilled from his head and gradually formed a deep, dark whirlpool. The whirlpool twisted slowly, emanating an eerie power capable of devouring and crushing even the void. The terrifying fluctuations from it sent a tingling sensation through one's scalp. Soul power at the essence transformation stage? The Lord of the Infinite Flame territory. His strength is not to be underestimated. Some elders, watching the battle through crystal screens, couldn't help but speak up, their eyes glimmering. They inscribed Xiao Yan's name on golden paper in their hands. For someone to reach the essence transformation stage at this age, their future prospects were limitless. Essence transformation stage? This doesn't seem quite right. Yao Wuchen narrowed his eyes and glanced at Xiao Yan through the crystal screen. He seemed to have sensed something but didn't point it out. Girl, nothing major should happen here. Leave it to you. We need to deal with some other matters. Princess Qianqian whispered in Xun'er's ear before pulling the bewildered Lily away. They quietly avoided the eyes of many alchemy holy hall experts and headed toward the core areas of the mountain range. Xiao Yan, go for it. Xun'er stood silently in the air. But as she turned her head, she noticed some Moon God Palace and Floral God Palace guards. It seemed that this time, even these superpowers had joined the alchemy conference. Such a waste of effort. Die. Xu Yuan sneered coldly and shot his arm directly toward the swirling vortex. Humph. As Xu Yuan's attack descended, Xiao Yan suddenly opened his eyes. The soul whirlpool began to contract, and its immense suction force firmly bound Xu Yuan's body. This is impossible. At this moment, Xu Yuan's face turned pale as he stared in shock at Xiao Yan. This guy had been setting a trap from the very beginning. His soul power was clearly not at the mid-stage of essence transformation. Thinking his full soul power would easily crush Xiao Yan had been a huge mistake. It's over. Crack. Xiao Yan clenched his hand tightly, and the space around them closed in. The sound of the soul whirlpool was like a sharp, grinding noise, easily obliterating Xu Yuan's soul attack. Cough, cough. Xu Yuan's strongest soul attack had been so easily neutralized by Xiao Yan. His body trembled, his pupils showing rare fear. The pain from the massive loss of soul power caused his face to contort in agony, showing his true vulnerability. Don't worry. I'm not going to kill you. But for now, I'll have to trouble you a little. Xiao Yan waved his hand, and the soul whirlpool reappeared, swallowing Xu Yuan's body whole. Clearly, based on previous signs, this guy wasn't going to die just yet. Master, the outcome is already clear. Xu Yuan was devoured and temporarily imprisoned within the spirit palace in his body. Only then did Xiao Yan turn to the elder in the arena and speak. The elder overseeing the match appeared, his gaze landing on Xiao Yan's actions. He looked confused. Although this was within the rules of the competition, if someone were to cause trouble, even the Alchemy Holy Hall would find it difficult to intervene immediately. Fortunately, Xu Yuan was just an unknown figure, not someone from a major power or a gifted prodigy. Otherwise, things would definitely be different. Go ahead. After some thought, the elder nodded, allowing Xiao Yan to proceed. Second match. Third match. Aside from the first opponent, whose presence was rather strange and gave Xiao Yan a bit of trouble, the rest were mostly ordinary opponents. After a few encounters, Xiao Yan hadn't even used his full strength before conceding, leaving him with a sense of regret, as if something was left unfinished. Next, it should only be the final 3 rounds of soul battles. These might be the fiercest battles yet. Stepping out of the arena again, Xiao Yan looked up at the 3 arenas suspended in midair and muttered to himself. Huh. A sound echoed as Xiao Yan stepped into the 3rd soul arena, his eyes immediately landing on a muscular figure that seemed to have been waiting for him. Xiao Yan, huh? The muscular figure seemed to have known it was Xiao Yan coming and spoke directly. Xiao Yan was slightly startled upon hearing this. Don't ask me who I am. I'm just here to deliver a message for someone. The burly man shook his head, his gaze fixed firmly on Xiao Yan. Take your people and leave the immortal realm while you still can. Are you threatening me? Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes, meeting the man's gaze as he tried to discern his identity. Save your energy. I'm just a passerby. That's all. Farewell. Good luck. With that, the man voluntarily conceded and left, leaving Xiao Yan standing there in deep thought. Who is this guy? Combining his thoughts from before with the current situation, Xiao Yan couldn't shake the ominous feeling rising in his chest. After some consideration, Xiao Yan decided that he would share the fate of the immortal realm. After all, he was the master of the sacred flame. Moreover, if this exceptionally beautiful world of the immortal realm were to vanish, it would surely be a great loss to the great thousand worlds. And more importantly, Xiao Yan hadn't yet resolved the lingering matters of the Dark Curse. Above all, he couldn't afford to lose the championship of the Alchemy Conference. 2 more matches. After steadying his breath, Xiao Yan left the current Spirit Realm arena, heading toward the next match. However, as he moved, his brows furrowed, clearly still pondering the mysterious figure's words. Since the man had appeared in the immortal realm and was able to safely participate in the soul battles, he was clearly an alchemist, but his tone suggested that he knew something more. Why tell Xiao Yan this? What were his intentions? My opponent? As he entered the next Spirit Realm arena, Xiao Yan looked around, only to find that there was no one facing him. Instead, there was an eerie stillness in the air. The silence continued, but Xiao Yan didn't let his guard down. His instincts told him that this silence likely indicated a very troublesome opponent. Someone triggered their soul's origin during the soul battle. To prevent their soul power from collapsing, they've conceded. This match is considered a bye for you, Lord Xiao. You may proceed to the final round. A voice explaining the situation echoed in the air. Xiao Yan waved his hand helplessly and set off for the final battlefield. The dark curse, the mysterious figure, and the entrance to the center of the immortal realm still weighed heavily on Xiao Yan's mind. Yet, he couldn't openly discuss these things, leaving him with a somewhat gloomy air. A few minutes later, Xiao Yan arrived at the final battlefield, but the arena felt like an ancient altar. The vast plaza was filled with the aura of countless ancient energies, as if a powerful restriction had stood here for eternity. In one corner of the altar, a mesmerizing figure slowly appeared. Finally here, as Xiao Yan appeared, the figure murmured, her voice filled with a rare, fiery passion. Let's begin. Xiao Yan nodded lightly, his gaze sharpening as he took in the figure before him. She was like a beautiful, radiant flower, but from her, an overwhelmingly strong soul pressure slowly radiated. Just the subtle wave of energy emanating from her was so powerful that Xiao Yan immediately realized the magnitude of her strength. Floral God Palace, Hua Qianqian. Endless Fire Domain, Xiao Yan. As the two voices fell, an invisible tide of soul power suddenly surged from their bodies, unrelenting, directly clashing into the void of the altar space. Whom! The void of the altar twisted and distorted slightly, and in the blink of an eye, faint dark rifts appeared, devouring their soul power completely. Soul Dragon Technique. Hua Qianqian seemed to have anticipated the altar's strange ability to devour soul power. With a swift motion, she pressed her palms together, and intricate, profound patterns emerged. Boom! An ancient, murky energy surged from her delicate form, rapidly transforming into a nearly transparent soul dragon that began to roar fiercely. The terrifying shockwave of soul power was so overwhelming that even Xiao Yan's body trembled slightly. Such exquisite soul control. Xiao Yan's body slowly lifted off the altar's surface, hovering mid-air. Watching Hua Qianqian's attack, his mind churned with thoughts, as though he had gained some insight. However, when masters battle, every move is lethal, and Hua Qianqian naturally wouldn't allow Xiao Yan the time to grasp the nuances of soul power. She raised her arm, and the soul dragon slashed through the sky, carrying immense force as it rushed toward Xiao Yan. Soul power. Xiao Yan's expression darkened. With such a rapid attack, he could only passively endure, with no chance to gather his own soul power. As their soul powers clashed, Xiao Yan's body trembled slightly. Though the attack wasn't fatal, it still left him feeling suppressed, especially the soul dragon. If not for his soul power being slightly stronger than hers, it would have quietly overwhelmed him. She really has some skill, but let's see how you handle this. Sacred Grade Soul Do Skill. Hua Mian Sacred Sound. Before the aftermath of her previous attack could dissipate, a gentle force slowly unfolded, and in an instant, a soft, radiant light ignited within the altar. The light shone brilliantly, accompanied by a soft, almost melancholic sound that calmed all the power within Xiao Yan's body. Gulp. As the flower-like light bloomed, releasing its soul power, Xiao Yan's face twitched violently. Since you're going all out, I guess I should risk my life to accompany the beauty. 6-tier Spirit Palace. Sacred Flame Soul Eye. Suddenly, 6 layers of transparent soul palaces materialized above Xiao Yan's head. Under the gaze of everyone present, these layers slowly formed into an eye-shaped, strange pupil. The moment the strange eye pupil formed, it flickered subtly, causing some elders from the Alchemy Holy Hall to feel a sense of daze. This girl from the Floral God Palace, her strength is really becoming more terrifying. Watching the terrifying moves exchange between Xiao Yan and Hua Qianqian, some elders outside the arena couldn't help but admire and envy them. Her talent and strength are pretty good, But within the Floral God Palace, she only ranks second. Such a genius only ranks second? I wonder who the #1 genius in the Floral God Palace is? No one knows. The #1 genius rarely appears and stays in the Floral God Palace's estate, keeping a low profile. But her strength and talent are unquestionable. After all, she is the next flower god personally endorsed by the princess of the Floral God Palace. Countless murmurs echoed from the mountaintop's void. Meanwhile, the battle between the two had left a noticeable mark. Boom! The soul flower released an energy tide that suddenly tore through the altar space, sending a vast shockwave toward Xiao Yan. Whom! The two attacks collided, and the entire altar space shook violently. However, there was no explosion of energy. Instead, both attacks canceled each other out effortlessly as they met. After the two attacks dissipated, Xiao Yan and Hua Qianqian locked eyes, and a strong battle intent surged between them. Cough, cough, this match is a draw. Both of you will advance. Just as they were about to continue their battle, the elder in charge of the match hurriedly appeared, playing the role of a peacemaker. These two had been specifically instructed by the higher-ups to receive special attention. The purpose of the first round of soul combat was, of course, to drastically reduce the number of alchemists, but figures like Xiao Yan and Hua Qianqian, regardless of the outcome, were eligible to advance to the next round. After all, the rules of the Alchemy Holy Hall slightly favored these exceptionally talented alchemists. You're very strong. I look forward to seeing your full strength in the next match, Hua Qianqian said, then turned gracefully and left under the elder's guidance. Floral God Palace, such a mysterious force. Xiao Yan muttered to himself. For some reason, his mind wandered to the disappearance of the flower sect master back on the continent of Doqi. A firm and powerful low growl surged from Xiao Yan's mouth, and with that, the first trial was successfully passed with little danger. As the soul duel came to an end, many extraordinarily talented experts suddenly emerged within the 10,000 Spirits Mountain, shocking countless strong individuals. Among these experts, around 100 alchemists entered the second round of the trial. However, there were still 10 days before the second trial would begin. After all, these 3 trials were conducted separately, and the remaining time was meant to allow the alchemists to recover their soul power and rest. Only in peak condition could they unleash their true strength. 10 days might pass in the blink of an eye for ordinary people, but for the alchemists who had passed the first trial and entered the second, every second became a precious resource. If they could use this time to further hone their abilities and skills, their chances of claiming victory would increase dramatically. At this moment, ancient buildings rose from the ground across the 10,000 Spirits Mountain range. These structures were built by powerful individuals from the Alchemy Holy Hall to temporarily accommodate the large crowd gathered to watch the Alchemy Conference. This also led to the emergence of vast trading markets within the mountain range, where rare and unique treasures from all the 7 realms gathered. As for whether these were priceless treasures or mere scraps of metal, it was hard to say. Brother Xiao Yan, the first trial must have been quite difficult, right? Many alchemists had their own designated residences. Inside a quiet wooden house, Xun'er stood gracefully, like a fairy under the moonlight. Watching Xiao Yan with a dazed expression, she couldn't help but speak up. Indeed, Xiao Yan replied. Though my soul power is formidable now, my mastery over soul skills still leaves much to be desired. If I encounter a peak stage essence transformation expert, it could be quite troublesome. Xiao Yan gently wrapped his arm around Xun'er's delicate frame, feeling a little embarrassed. Little E and Princess Qianqin went to handle the fire spirit issue. They've left a message for us, so we don't need to worry. Brother Xiao Yan, follow me. Xun'er stuck out her tongue playfully, then quietly opened the wooden door and led Xiao Yan towards the cities within the mountain range. The region surrounding the 10,000 Spirits Mountain was vast and boundless. To the north, the higher-tier alchemists, including Xiao Yan, had their resting areas. Other regions were similarly situated, but at this moment, they were all bustling with activity. At the base of the mountain, on a vast plain, the area was brightly lit and crowded with people, exuding a lively atmosphere. What is this? Xiao Yan stood still, slightly stunned. as he looked at a figure joyfully running ahead, like an enchanting elf. After a moment, he finally noticed the unusual scene before him. The open space in front was teeming with people. While there were occasional arguments, the overall mood was cheerful and energetic. This is the marketplace in the 10,000 Spirits Mountain. It only appears after the Alchemy conference begins. It's a gathering place for alchemists and powerful individuals with rare treasures. Here, they sell their goods in exchange for other treasures. Under the bright lights, Xun'er turned around with a smile, her hands behind her back. Her voice, light and elegant, calmed the mind as she spoke. A treasure market? Upon hearing Xun'er's words, Xiao Yan's eyes and soul power scanned the large area. A rare excitement stirred within him. It wasn't the first time Xiao Yan had encountered such a market. In such places, one could find treasures of immeasurable value at surprisingly low prices. Of course, such fortune was reliant on good luck. After all, the strong individuals who set up stalls here were all shrewd old foxes. They had thoroughly investigated the items they were selling and would only part with them after countless checks, ensuring there was nothing of value left. It could be said without hesitation that shopping in such a market required not only luck, but also courage. You're quite well informed, aren't you? Xiao Yan chuckled. Let's go, let's take a look. Hopefully, we can find something useful. As soon as the words left his mouth, the two of them held hands and entered the bustling market. As they stepped into the so-called treasure market, Xiao Yan's eyes were immediately drawn to the dazzling array of treasures, medicinal herbs, and pills. Even he couldn't help but click his tongue in surprise. However, what truly astonished Xiao Yan were the merchants manning the stalls. There were hundreds of stalls, yet the merchants were not loudly calling out to passers-by. The feeling was as if they weren't afraid of their precious items being stolen. After all, those who could set up a stall here, whether in terms of influence or prestige, were probably among the top figures in the Great Thousand Worlds. The entire marketplace was interconnected, forming a complex tan shape. Xiao Yan and Xun'er wandered around, but they didn't find any rare treasures. Clearly, treasure hunting here also required a bit of luck. You. This item was clearly mine first. You're bullying the weak. Just as the two were feeling a bit disappointed and were about to leave for the lodging area, a soft, sweet voice sounded not far away. That little girl. Isn't she the one who kept pestering me to buy candied hawthorns? Her name's Yuqi, right? Xiao Yan's eyes shifted, instantly identifying the source of the voice. Let's go have a look. Xiao Yan pulled Xun'er toward the sound. Big brother, you're here? This person is fighting with me for the pill. This pill was clearly mine first. And this vendor, so greedy, doesn't follow the rules of this marketplace at all. As Xiao Yan and Xun'er approached, the little girl's eyes lit up, and she called out to Xiao Yan for help. Cough, cough. At Yuqi's words, the onlookers began murmuring, and even the man who was competing with her for the pill turned pale with anger. Old sir, what's going on here? Xiao Yan casually swept his gaze over and noticed that the elder in front of him seemed to be at the second-tier reincarnation stage, while the man arguing with Yuqi was only at the reincarnation stage. Xiao Yan immediately stood protectively in front of the little girl, casting a somewhat unfriendly look at the vendor and the man. Heh, that's not wrong, but everything here is based on who offers the higher price. If you don't have enough wealth, you shouldn't be in the marketplace at all. Seeing Xiao Yan and Xun'er appear, the man bidding seemed unmoved. He smirked slightly and then cheerfully added, After all, this is 10,000 Spirits Mountain. I don't believe you two would dare cause any trouble here. You. At these words, Yuqi's little face turned bright red with anger, her small mouth pouting and stamping her foot. Woo! As this scene unfolded, Xiao Yan took a deep breath, preparing to step in and teach the man a lesson. At that moment, a chill spread from the side of the stall, a cold aura that seemed to shimmer with the light of the moon, mysterious and profound.